What is up, design family, and welcome back to another episode of Fittalk, the interview series on the Fittdesign podcast, where we get the absolute beautiful opportunity to speak to entrepreneurs from all over the world who have designed, developed their own fashion brands, and we get to learn from them. And on today's episode, we have Heidi Somers, founder and owner of BuffBunny and owner of BuffBunny Boutique retail store.
Women must earn less than men because they are weaker, they are smaller, they are less intelligent, and they must earn less. That's all.
Heidi, thank you so much for coming on the Fittdesign podcast. I've been extremely excited to share your story with the world. And I know that you're someone that has such an absolutely phenomenal vision in terms of how she structures and positions her brand, her marketing, how you create, your staff culture. BuffBunny is truly one of the most exciting brands to watch. And I've had the pleasure of seeing the rise of BuffBunny since early days. And I'm so glad to have you on. Heidi, introduce yourself, tell us a little bit more about what you're about, and we'll get the ball rolling from there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shadi. It's great to be on this podcast. I know I've been equally excited. And it's great to be able to do it with someone that, I've known for a while now. So my background, I started BuffBunny Collection in 2016 in my living room. As someone who, grew up in Alaska and going to school, my interests back then were actually fashion. They were science and math. It was not fashion or business. So it's not something that I studied and not something that I saw myself doing in the future, but I always had an interest in fashion and, trying different things. So upon starting the collection and the brand, I always had an interest in pieces, as someone that went to the gym all the time, I would put on a pair of leggings and I'd say, man, I love these. I just wish they had a pocket or had a zipper, or they were a little bit more compressive, or they were a little bit more lightweight feeling. And so I saw myself doing that quite a bit with products just in general. And so upon starting the brand, it was more so, I would say in the beginning, selfishly for me, because I was like, I want great products that I love to wear. And that's actually one of our best-selling pieces, which is our Game Changer bag. That was also developed for me in mind because I traveled all the time, and it was something that I selfishly wanted. And I was like, there might be a couple other people out there who want it as well. And I didn't realize the big demand that people had for a bag that encompassed all the different things, including a meal prep compartment that you could use for, not only your meals, but for medicine, keeping it cold, or baby toys or baby food. So it was something that I kind of stumbled into. And as I got, more into building this brand, it was also to provide pieces for women from all over the world, and with, different women in mind. My family is very diverse. So I have family that are anywhere from extra, extra small to triple XL. Also my family, I have family members who are, Athabascan, who are Native American, that are Black, that are white, that I have such a diverse family. So upon building this brand, I was like, I want to be able to showcase all types of women, not just one or two types of women. So I think starting the brand, it was a mixture of a lot of different things. It wasn't like I want to create a great pair of leggings. It was like, I want to create a brand, a culture, a vibe, and be able to showcase all different types of women.
That is so clear in everything that you do and how BuffBunny comes across, that this is a brand by people for people. I would say more than by woman for woman. You take such a holistic view of your target demographic and who you're trying to reach out to. And I think you started with yourself first, trying to look at the pain points that you're experiencing and looking at how you can improve what products you already enjoy. And to take things to the next level, I think that's such a humble and honest place to start from. But what is so exciting to me about BuffBunny is the way that you really position the brand as a community-focused brand. And I want to focus on the name, BuffBunny. It's a name that rolls off the tongue, and it's such a fun name to say, but it's like, it's so you. It's truly fundamental to your personality. Can you tell us a little bit about the name, how it came about, and the importance and significance of the BuffBunny name?
Definitely. I think upon naming the brand, I know I went between a lot of different things, but there was just something about the name that I love so much. You know, it's taking two different words that I found myself very drawn to. You know, buff encompass like this hard, sweating in the gym, throwing the weights around, like that alter ego, if you will. And then bunny, you know, it's such a soft, feminine, beautiful creature. It's just combining the two made sense, you know, to me. And I loved it because it just encompasses two different sides. You know, as women, it's like, oh, you know, we always have to be soft and feminine, and you know, this persona of woman. But really, it's like we can be anything we want. It's like we can be that soft feminine person, but we can also be that person in the gym just throwing weights around and you know, super sweaty. And whether you wear makeup to the gym or you don't wear makeup at all, it's just,
It gives you that duality, that ability to be the person that you want to be without society telling you how you should be.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
Exactly.
that's it. It's very noble, and it comes across in everything that you do. Well, then
Thank you.
BuffBunny is a brand. I would say not only is it community focused, but I noticed that you have consistent values. It's a brand that, honestly, because we do a lot of, you know, we understand the brand really well, and it's a brand that I've always been, even before knowing you personally, it's a brand that I've always had my eye on, just because of how cohesive everything feels. And I think at the core of that is your value system. What values do you think BuffBunny, the brand, stands for?
Our values, I would say, like, our three words that we really use a lot is include, inspire, and ignite. Those are our three words, and we're really trying to use that into our brand more. We recently actually had a meeting where we were like, okay, we want three words that really describe the brand, which is include. We're very much inclusion. You know, we want every woman to wear the pieces. We want every woman to feel confident in the pieces. And something that we do differently than I would say a lot of other brands is that we do custom size grading. So typical, which I'm sure you know about this, it's a lot of brands use fashion math. So they'll try it on a small model, and they use their fashion math to go through all the sizes.
Correct.
Yes. But something that I noticed, you know, a couple of years ago is that I was like, man, this fits me amazing. But our double XL model, I was like, she's like, I don't feel the exact same in this. So that's when we really started doing more custom grading between all the sizes. And it was like, okay, this fits me great, but the double XL using the fashion math, it doesn't make her feel great. So we actually custom grade all of the sizes to make sure that the extra small girl feels just as beautiful and confident as a double XL model. And that goes into, it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it's a testament to that idea of inclusion. Like, you want to create products that everyone can feel comfortable in. Can you tell me a little bit about that process when it comes to, let's just say, sample review? When you're trying out, and I know that you do this, you try on every single size on, you know, different model sets. And that's to get an accurate representation of how the fit is. Tell me a little bit about that process and how that allows you to achieve that final result.
Yeah. So one thing that we do is we don't hire professional models to come in to try the product. We actually use real women in the office because, you know, we want to get feedback from people that would just wear it every day. So working in a big office full of women is great because we'll say, hey, we have girls that anywhere from extra small to triple XL in the office space. So it's great. We can just use anyone and everyone. We actually have someone of every single size in the office unintentionally. We were just like, oh, great. You're a large, you're a double XL, you're triple XL, extra small, medium. So we have them try on all the different pieces. And it's fun because I've learned so much over the years. You know, in the past, I was like, oh, you know, add a couple inches and it'll make it bigger. But really, it's so much more technical than that because For example, we did a collaboration with one of our plus size influencers recently, and one of our sports bras, had 4 grommets, right? But as the sizing went up, we ended up having to add another grommet on our, I think it was starting in our XL or double XL. Otherwise, you have this spacing between the grommets that doesn't look cohesive between the sizes. So little things like that, where it's not only, make it this way, it's like you have to make it.
You have to redesign or redevelop according to the bigger and smaller sizes to make sure that even your triple XL, quadruple XL customers are getting the product in the vision that you've actually imagined.
Exactly. So it could be things like, the drawstring. Every size has to have a little bit more length, or the underbust area, we need to add like a little 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch or a whole, like, it depends on like what sizing and what piece and the fabric. But it's so technical. I always say, my fashion team, I was like, we're engineers, because we really are. It's like having to construct every single piece from the ground up, and then the grading along with it is so much
challenge.
Realize they're like, oh, just do the fashion math and do it, which can work every once in a while depending on the fabric and piece, but most of the time it's like it really needs a lot of love, especially with like the straps and the buttons and the zippers and everything.
Just goes to show how much you're committed to making sure that everyone gets to experience your products in the way that they're intended to be experienced. Heidi, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Starting a business is, especially a fashion business, is one of the most fulfilling things that one can do. It's a lot of fun, but it comes with a lot of trials and tribulations. What is one of the biggest struggles that you faced as an entrepreneur starting BuffBunny, and how have you actively or are actively trying to overcome it?
I feel like starting a business it's a lot. I feel like it's a lot for everyone, whether you went to school or you have experience in it or not. 6 years in, I still Google things to find things out. I think people have this persona of business people that are like, oh, they have it all together and look how successful they are. And meanwhile, we're in the background, like Googling how to figure out something on Shopify. It's like, you don't always have it all together. I would say the most important thing is creating a quality product over anything. It's like the product that you have in mind that you want to do is the most important thing that you can do. Because if you have a product that's like, it's, you might sell it to someone, but they'll never purchase again. Versus if you have a quality product, you're going to sell it to someone who's going to continue to purchase that product, and it's only going to grow and amplify from there. So that would be probably my biggest advice, is to make sure quality product is number one, and realize that you're not always going to have it all together. And another thing is sometimes you have to slow down a little bit in order to speed up. A lot of times we're like, go, 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 hustle, hustle, hustle. But sometimes you have to like pause for a second, take a little, baby step back, evaluate things and say, hey, I'm leaking over here. I'm bleeding over here. I got to fix these things in order to put the pedal to the metal, or I guess like able to push on the gas. So
to scale correctly. And I think a company like yours, like BuffBunny, that has had such a massive impact on so many people, you guys have this pressure to scale, to bring your products to more markets, to more people, to give more of the essence of BuffBunny. And of course, that can be a pressure on you. You want to achieve that growth, but with that growth comes the trials and tribulations, comes the longer hours, comes the larger order quantities, the bigger investments, the more customer service you have to deal with. So I understand fundamentally that retaining the authenticity of the BuffBunny brand, what made you guys you, and scaling can be such a challenge. How are you guys trying to approach scaling, and what do you think the next 1 to 5 years of BuffBunny looks like?
These are some great questions, Shadi. I would say the biggest thing that I have noticed with scaling is you have to hire people that know what they're doing. A lot of times, and, I've had friends ask me like, oh, I think I'm just going to hire this person, and they don't have any experience, but I'm going to teach them. I'm like, and in the beginning, it is that way because, you haven't made anything yet. You know, it's before you even made a sale. It's kind of like, you know, you want to hire this team to help you. Not everyone has that. And I would say I definitely did not have that early on in the beginning. You know, I put most of my money into the business and I worked with an assistant, you know, and I figured things out along the way. But as we've grown, something that I've realized that is so important is, you know, you can hire someone at like a medium salary and teach them, or you can hire someone at a little bit higher of a salary that can teach you. And that is something that I've learned so much over the 6 years. I'm like, I don't want to be constantly teaching, you know, my team. Like, I want to hire professionals that can teach me some things, you know, and that can be 2 steps ahead and that can help grow the company. Because if I'm constantly, you know, teaching my whole team, which you will, no matter, you know, no matter what, I'd love to be able to teach someone and then just take it and run with it and just be empowered to grow that department and be doing all of that. And then you're going to realize too, I guess, as an entrepreneur, that you're not good at everything. And there's a lot of things that I'm not the best at, you know, and over the course of years, I've done my best to challenge myself and learn new things and constantly try to get better at those things that I'm not the best at, but also hiring people that can do that. So for me, I'm not the best at managing a large team. I'm like, I'm very good at being creative and I love to look at my numbers and I love to be on production sets and directing things. But when it comes to all the stuff on the back end, which is like managing, you know, distribution and logistics and this and that, I'm good at, but I'm not excellent at. So I have an operations director I hired who's incredible. And I learned so much from her, which I love. I'm like, I want to be able to learn from other people.
Of course, you guys have, what always impresses me about BuffBunny is there's a team behind it. And I think, Heidi, that's probably one of the things that you are the most proud about when it comes to the brand that you built, is the company you built behind it, the team, the humans that make BuffBunny what BuffBunny is. And it shows a lot of humility. That the biggest struggle that you mentioned was understanding that I can't do everything and that I shouldn't do everything. I should bring people in and trust them to do what they need to do, and for us to empower each other for the betterment of everything. So that's something that so many entrepreneurs, they struggle with, the inability to let go. I know even in my own business, I struggle with that. I know a lot of entrepreneurs that are running fashion brands that also struggle with that. So it's something that I see in you and in BuffBunny, and especially in the way that you run the many different parts of the BuffBunny brand, whether it's your product range, whether it's your social media marketing, whether it's your website. You trust people to do their jobs and you give them the framework and the guidance to make it happen. Heidi, I want to transition into a little bit more of a serious subject here when it comes to the fashion business, which is fashion business copycatting. When it comes to, let's just say, any business in fashion, people are going to look at what's popular and they're going to either try to duplicate it or they're going to try to completely rip it off. And of course, as a business, as a brand like BuffBunny that's doing so well, there's many eyeballs on you. What's one thing about your business and your brand that no one can duplicate?
That's a really good question. I would say as far as designs, it's hard because a lot of people are inspired by people, designers and everything, you know, the what's on the runway and what's new and what's coming out. I think a lot of people are just inspired and they'll create their own designs. And I think let me rephrase that. I think there's a big difference between being inspired and then full on copying. If you've seen The Misguided on HBO, I believe, I highly recommend watching it. It was really interesting to see their designers be like, you know, their form of designing was just looking at what other people did and basically replicating it. And I was like, okay, you know, it's so like, that's, you know, I don't.
It removes the soul out of the practice.
Yeah, I think so. It made it, I guess watching that just made me not want to purchase from that brand. I don't know if I should say that on here, but it's kind of, it just made it less authentic, less exciting. Cause I guess I look at my designers and they just work so hard, you know, they don't look much on, you know, WGSN and what other people are doing. They're kind of like, hey, we'll sit down and be like, what is something that will make a girl's butt look amazing and what are some seams that we could add that'd be really cool? And, we might draw inspiration from another legging where it's like, oh, I like that little seam detail. That's cool. But to full on just replicate an exact copy of another person's brand, I feel like is very
soulless.
Yeah, icky. Yeah. I don't know the proper term, but also, if a more basic design, I have seen companies do it where they're like, oh, this person's copying that. I'm like, that's a really basic design. It's a crop top with straps, it's been done a million times. But if it's something so unique and so different and someone to just completely replicate it, I think you're right. It's just like soulless. It's like you just stole another designer's idea, which I feel terrible for. And there was a company the other day, and I don't get upset about it. They just kind of copied quite a few things from us, and our designer was just like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, it's okay, because we're on to the next thing. That was so 6 months ago, and but I think for her, she was like, but it was such a creative, unique piece set or whatever. I'm like, but we're on to the next thing. We're probably not even going to restock that. So, I feel like it can be heartbreaking for some designers, but then on the other side, I'm like, I understand drawing inspiration from maybe one of the technical things on a piece of legging or jogger or this or that. So it's a slippery slope, I would say.
It is a slippery slope, but they say, and we'll take this with a grain of salt, that imitation is the greatest form of flattery. And like you mentioned, you're already on to the next thing and you're already pushing forward. And this takes me into my next question, which is, how do you plan when it comes to the BuffBunny collection, the product range that you're looking to make in the next 6 months, 12 months to a year and a half? How do you plan ahead, and how do you make sure that you're always creating fresh product that people would love to get their hands on?
I would say it's a good combination of a lot of things. What we do is very different, I would say, than a lot of other brands. We're very much theme-based. So if you've seen some of our out there campaign videos that we've done, we like to do what I always tell the team. I'm like, I want to do what's never been done before. I don't want to just film the product, do a video in a studio. It's been done a million times. So I was like, I like to do things that stand out. And I guess for me, I love the creativity and fantasy in clothing. It's like expressing yourself. And I would say the campaign videos, it's like a way for me to express myself, but also make it fun for people. I guess growing up, like, I love a good party. I love theme parties. If you go to a party, it's like, oh, it's like a toga party or a ABC party or this or that. I'm like, ooh, I was like,
that's
number one, I was all out. And so with our campaign videos, that's kind of where we start with our collections. For example, we did our Frozen collection. And with that one, I was like, I'm from Alaska, and I was like, I want to design a collection that is inspired by Alaska, which was different shades of blue. So I did a monochromatic shades of blue colors. And I think there was 5 different shades of blue, and they're gorgeous. And we did some beautiful custom prints that our graphic artist made that had a lot of the different blue colors within those 2 different prints. And then doing little peekaboos that were like the crescent moon that you would see, like if you were outside in Alaska. And then we, for that, I was like, okay, what hasn't been done before? And for me, I was like, I want to film a ballerina dancing in the glaciers in Alaska, and everyone's like, oh, we could green screen it. I was like, no. I'm very like, I want the real thing. I know we could green screen it and it'd probably be a hell of a lot cheaper, but I was like, this is like my home state, and I want to bring a ballerina in the glaciers by helicopter. And we did it. And it was so much fun. It's out of all the crazy videos and collections and everything we've done, that's definitely one of my favorites, and one that stands out to people. It was a year and a half ago, and people still bring it up to this day. They're like, wow, that was incredible. And so, the pieces are amazing, of course, and it takes us a year and a half sometimes to develop a lot of those pieces and prints. And I am so picky. I'm like, this doesn't match perfectly. Redo it, like relabbed it. The seam isn't perfect. And there's a lot of times with people don't realize a lot of the pieces don't end up making it into the collections because this one needs 6 more months, to develop and really perfect it. But I think with us, we start with this crazy campaign idea and we build the collection around it. And the designs aren't like super out there or anything crazy, but we might be like, okay, as we develop this legging design that we already know we want, we'll just put it in these colors that will match Frozen.
it's almost like the full package. The sum of the parts is greater than the whole, or the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. And every single BuffBunny campaign that you guys bring to life has so much depth and richness. Whether it's your it was the Under the Sea or Underwater campaign that you did, which was so magical and so, it just felt like a dream, like watching something from a dream. Or like you mentioned, the ballerina in the glaciers. You put your mind to this vision or this idea that feels so true and authentic, and you have a no holds bar approach to making it happen. And I think that's sort of what you're saying is you develop your products around these collections and these themes that you want to do. So how many collections and themes can we expect to experience over the next year, would you say? What should we be the most excited about? Obviously, you don't have to give full information, but if you can give us a little bit of a snippet of what we can be excited about.
Oh gosh. Well, I would say we do about 8 a year where it's like larger campaigns, like the wow videos. And we might do a couple capsules throughout the year as well. But we tested something earlier this year. We like to switch things around. I think for January, our campaign was, a collaboration, which we haven't seen done before, showing every single step and what goes into creating a collection. And that was really fun because, we had step 1, step 2, all the way to step 10. It was like, okay, the concept, what are we going to name it? The campaign video, what are we going to do? The colors, this. And so we showed every single process, which are, sorry for Nala if you hear her. Very excited.
We're very lucky to have Nala as a guest star on this episode.
Yeah, she's wild right now. But yeah, so we showed behind the scenes of what goes into creating a collection. Our customers really appreciated that because they were like, oh, wow, you're not just putting a logo on a pair of leggings. It was like, no. And it was really cool because, people think it's just me doing everything. And I'm like, no. I got a whole amazing team, which I featured almost every single person in that video. Even they were like, okay, the warehouse. I was like, no, I want to show who's behind, who's behind it all at distribution, which is
the
Kevin.
People that make it happen.
Yeah. And which is important to me because, I can't do it all. And people that think like, oh, I'm the CEO and owner, I'm carrying the whole team. And it's like, you might be directing and helping lead the team, but it's like, you need your superstars is what I like to call them. It's my favorite word right now. I'm like, you need your superstars in all your departments in order for everything to flow like a machine, So that was really fun for that campaign to kind of show like, this is my team. This is what all goes into it. It's not just me. It's a very complicated process, everything from design process to marketing to logistics and all that. And then the last 2 campaigns, not that we played it safe, but I was like, okay, these are 2 smaller-ish collections. We didn't go too crazy on the campaign videos. And I wanted to kind of see people's reaction. And they were just kind of like, oh, these are cool. And I was like, okay, they're ready for some fantasy, which the next one is like never been done before. And the setup, I won't say too much, but we've never done anything like this. And I would say the setup took 6 hours, 15 people constantly setting what we set up. And it's very exciting.
The fact that you were saying it's very exciting, and I know how humble you are, and the way that you say that, and already the bar that you've set for what exciting is getting me very excited to see what happens. And I'm sure so many people that are so passionate about the BuffBunny brand are going to be equally as excited. So I look forward to that. And I really want to transition into speaking a little bit about the BuffBunny fabric philosophy, because one thing that strikes me always about all of your products is that so much time and attention goes into selecting the right textiles and making sure that they perform as they should and at the highest level. What are 3 extremely important characteristics about how you go about selecting fabrics? Like, what are 3 things that you always need to check off when it comes to a piece that you're trying to work with?
Oh, only 3. Okay. There's a lot of different things that, as someone, I know you equally love textiles. I would say number 1, depending on, it really depends on the design. Durability is a huge one. So I think we showed a little bit of behind the scenes on our stories. We'll take dumbbells and we'll actually like scrape. To get a swatch, it's cute, but like I need to wear it in order to know for sure, because a lot of our manufacturers will send a swatch and be like, what do you think of this? I'm like, I like it, make it into a whatever, like now I need to wear it. I need to test it. I need to take a dumbbell and scrape it, because if a girl's doing deadlifts, for example, the barbell, I need to know if we're going to have defects, if it's going to hold up, if it's going to be durable enough. Now, not every fabric will be for that. We have like our more naked feeling fabrics, but even those, I'm like, okay, worst case scenario, what will happen to it?
There's a minimum baseline.
Yes, I'm kind of like, we scrape pretty hard. We're just like digging in there with like the grippier part of the dumbbell or barbell. And we'll do things like sit on concrete outside, because that can actually, pull at the fabric. As someone that, used to do CrossFit, I would, do my workout and I would sit on the concrete, and some fabrics I noticed it would stick, the concrete, which makes sense, it'd stick to the fabric. So these are the things that I do whenever I'm testing, because the girls will put it on, they're like, oh, wow, these are amazing. These are great. I'm like, we'll go sweat in it. And then they'll come back. Yeah, you're right. This just wasn't sweat wicking enough. This, it wasn't comfortable. The seams weren't in the right place. Things like putting a seam over the knee. I'm like, no, don't do it. So little things like that. A lot of research and development goes into every single type of fabric. We do have 4 of our core fabrics that we use, and we're building off of that, which is actually today. I have like a 4-hour meeting in the design, which I'm really excited about. We have some new textiles that I'm very excited to play with and do all that. Sometimes we'll pick fabrics first, and sometimes we'll do a design first. It kind of depends on, where we're at, what we're doing. Sometimes, I'll have like this big bucket of different fabric textiles to go through, and I touch and feel every single one. And I'm like, okay, this, but maybe at like 180 GSM with like a double brush and like all these things that I want to add to it. So we definitely customize like all of our fabrics. We're not like, this one, make it into a legging. I'm like, hey, I want this to be antimicrobial. I want a UV protectant on it. So adding all of those things, you really have to do custom. I'm very high maintenance with my textiles.
But that's how you create a great product. So to recap, you would say durability, functionality, and overall comfort are absolutely paramount when it comes to a BuffBunny textile.
Yeah, I like those 3 things for sure. Would definitely be very important, because even the leggings and fabrics that you want to do, that's, this is our more compressive one. It still needs to be comfortable, because if a girl's like, my sister's a marathon runner and she's like, oh, like these are very, different leggings on ours. These are, they hold me in, but they're not comfortable. And sometimes, I would look at it and be like, oh, well, that's because it has a top seam that's digging in too much, or it has a seam, maybe the thread tension just isn't quite right. And so I'll kind of look at other brands too and be like, and figure out what people love about them and what they don't like about them.
And then use that information to push your items forward and to make sure that you're developing the best BuffBunny products that you can.
Yes. And I love watching, which is so valuable to a lot of people. We watch all of the reviews that BuffBunny collection gets on YouTube, but not only ours. We like to watch other people's, because we like to see what people like and dislike about other products. Because maybe someone did, mesh going all the way up to the butt cheek area or something, We like to see like, oh, did people like that? Did they dislike it? Because sometimes maybe the person in the video didn't like it, but you go to the comment section and people are like, no, I love that detail. So we like to see feedback from other companies as well, because, it's also helpful.
Gives you more data points to see what the market is responding to. And I think what I really appreciate about BuffBunny is, I've mentioned this multiple times, but it's the types of products you create, how you market it, but more importantly, or I would say equally as importantly, is the way that you package your items, the way that you present your items. Take me a little bit through your thinking when it comes to how you package your pieces and why you present them like that. Like, what's the reason behind a lot of those moves that you're making? Bless you.
Thank you. So that was something that I thought of early on, and as you create the product, I think in the beginning I had more of a basic hang tag, more of a basic EVA bag, if you will. And as the brand has grown, you can invest more into those things. And something that was really important to me is I wanted a quality product, but I also, I guess it's like the little kid in me, the fantasy. I want our customers to open the package and make it feel like Christmas morning. Like, wow, these are amazing. Because I think ordering from a lot of larger brands, I don't want to throw anyone on the bus, but I can. I guess whenever I would get the products, the poly mailer, like, meh, and then the packaging, like, but the product's good, sometimes. And so for me, I was like, I want them to get a bag, which we're transitioning to this gold, like this champagne gold matte bag. It's beautiful. And so I want them to see like, oh wow, the gold bag, this BuffBunny collection. And like, not only that, when they open up the thing and it's just packaged so beautiful, and putting little things on there, which we're redoing our bags right now to put a couple different words, which is of course include, inspire, ignite, and then also recycle me again, which is also very important to our brand, is not to waste things. So all of our packaging details are made from recycled materials and or recyclable for sure. Even little things like we have like our string and like a little plastic-ish piece in the middle that holds it together. A lot of times with other companies, those aren't, it's plastic, it's not recyclable, but ours is made from recycled materials and is recyclable, which we have a little recycle symbol on it. Little things like that are very important to me because obviously, we only have one earth, and so that's been really fun for us, is being able to create pieces from recycled materials, which we have done a few times now, and we're building off of that. But also it goes all the way back to even our pieces, our samples that we get in-house. Everything has a system and a place. So if you're sampling, constantly, and especially multiple sizes, we'll have like extra small, medium, double XL, triple XL samples. That's a lot of samples. So we don't want those to go to waste, but we also have to be careful who and when we donate those. So we actually package a lot of them, put them in the attic, and when it's an appropriate time, we partner with different women's shelters. We partner with a team that actually goes out to work with the homeless community. A lot of our employees wear these pieces, and not only for research and development, but just so it doesn't go to waste. I'm very much like, I don't want to waste anything. And if we have a shipment, maybe, I know we had some bras come in and there was a strap that was defective. This was like a year and a half ago, I think. And I was like, okay, so we partnered with a company, I think 3 different companies actually. Some of them I was like, okay, I want some of these to go to this community that helps with children. It's like a children's community, I don't want to say the word orphanage, children's home, because since it's such a diverse sizing gradient, it's like the double extra small can fit, a little girl. And so being able to find ways that don't waste product, but also be able to help different communities is super important to us as well.
That's it's very interesting that you mentioned that. And obviously on the surface, we can see that, but I know how important it is to you that the business you're creating is also conscious about the world that it's situated in. Like you said, we only have one earth, and why add to the pollution, to the chaos? Why add when we could take calculated steps to try to treat our earth better than brands XYZ and to have that social responsibility? It speaks to the values that you mentioned, and it's very admirable, and I wish you the absolute best. And hopefully the fashion business in general can kind of come together into just try to be a bit more mindful and less wasteful, because we owe it to ourselves and we owe it to our earth. Heidi, I want to transition into one of my favorite questions that we ask on this podcast, because a lot of the audience that watch these episodes are people that look up to people such as yourself, people who have created something from nothing and are living what others perceive as their dream job or their dream life. And obviously behind the scenes, it's a lot more difficult than that. But no doubt there's a sense of fulfillment that you feel every single day that you've worked incredibly hard to be able to achieve. What is the single biggest piece of advice that you give someone that you would see yourself in their shoes 5-10 years ago that would love to start a brand like yours? What's the single biggest piece of advice that you've had to learn that you would give someone in that same position?
Ooh, good question. I would say, there's a lot of different things, but I would say one thing is, what we do is hard. It's a lot, creating products and having your own business and this and that. And I would say, make sure that you're doing it for the right reasons. Some people see what we do and they're like, oh, wow, they're so successful. And like, I want to make a lot of money. And that's, what drives them. And if that is what drives you, you will probably not get as far as you'd like, because you have to be so passionate about what you do. And that's something that, if I didn't have passion for what I do right now, I feel like I would have given up a long time ago because of the stress and the long nights and the exhaustion that you feel sometimes. It's a lot, and if you're passionate about what you do, you're kind of like, okay, like let me pivot, let me adapt, let me change this. And because it means so much to you,
Mm.
you can comfortably do those things. It's not always easy. There's been some tears and some blood and some stress, but just making sure that you're passionate about what you do and you're passionate about your product.
Mm.
Otherwise, it's just you don't feel as fulfilled in what you're doing. And it can knock you down and keep you there if you're not as passionate.
100%. It's about having a solid why that when you're at perhaps your lowest moment, you can reflect on and say, this is as solid of a why as I can muster, and I believe in this why. And any challenge that I face, I'm going to go back to my why. And that's what you're describing as passion is, what is the reason I'm doing this? And it has to be bigger than the material gain. Obviously, you need financial resources to push and grow a business, but having a reason that is bigger and more rich than just the financial gain is such an important part. And I'm so glad that you mentioned it. And this will take me on to my last question, Heidi. And I appreciate you so much for coming on and sharing your story. And so many people are going to get a tremendous amount of value from this. But I would like to say, when all is said and done, and what is the most important way that you'd love to be remembered? Is it, and I would love for you to expand on that, but how would you like to be remembered?
Oh, wow. That's a deep question. I think someone that just includes everyone, which, kind of goes back to the brand. And maybe that's why it's so important to me, is to include people. I guess as someone who grew up very sheltered, homeschooled, and then eventually went to public school, there was a lot of times I didn't feel included in certain, friend groups, or I guess navigating through life, sometimes you just feel like left out or this or that. And so I think with BuffBunny Collection, that's why it's so important to me. And one of our core words is to include people and make people feel special, because it's so important to people, to just feel like they're part of something and to feel included in something. So I'd say inclusion. It's a good
to
word.
give people that feeling, to use your brand as a vessel to give people that sense of inclusion, and to let that emanate in every single thing that you do. Is that what you would say that BuffBunny ultimately should stand for down the line?
Yes, I love that.
Fair enough. Yeah, you could trademark that.
I'm gonna take it.
Heidi, I appreciate you so much, and thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come on the podcast. So many people I think, are going to enjoy this episode, and it's a fresh take on the types of guests that we're going to have and that we've had on the episode. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak. I can't wait to share this episode with the world, and I'm going to sign off from here. So I wish you the absolute best, and we'll speak very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Shadi. This was so much fun. I can't wait to share it online, and hopefully people learn a thing or two from both of us.